Hi guys, it's Ryan here from leprivatebanker.com. Just doing my quick nightly recap for crude oil and gold. So I'm going to touch base on these two markets today. Starting off with crude oil, just interesting day again. So what we saw today was just an open, pretty much just inside the previous value. We opened up at the lower extreme of the overnight trade, and just pretty much inside yesterday's value. So obviously from an auction market theory perspective, nothing much has changed overnight here. The perception of value is still the same, as we've not moved higher or lower. We're just trading within the previous value. So the overnight range was pretty balanced, so we just had no imbalance to either side of the market. So into the open, we just, like I said, see two-way trade, and we see the initial balance form, and there was some confluence at the sort of 104.50s, sort of the movement, the Vwap sort of skewing to the downside, and the previous sort of point of control above us, but obviously this wasn't enough to take a trade off of, and we had crude oil inventories coming into 10:30, so if you did try to get short here or do some business, then you just there's just no real edge here at the minute. You really needed to test an extreme. So I mean, you could have tried to buy this low. I mean, just as we see the push down into crude oil's inventories after the release came out, but that would have been a valid trade. But I was leaning more to the downside today with the information that we see yesterday. But again, this would have been a valid trade with a stop below the previous value, and the market auctioned higher and tried to become imbalanced, and we see this move straight up to the previous value area high, and this was actually into this week's developing value area high, and this is where I was looking to take my trade location. As I explained yesterday, we see a blow off top type move yesterday, and we failed to move higher here. So what we saw was the initial punch up. We see a fake out breakout. We cleared the stops above last month's high, and we see basically one time framing down the rest of the day to the previous day's value. So what I did yesterday was I joined these two profiles together, and as you can see, we had excess at the highs, we had excess at the lows, and we had a clear area of value here. And I did say we could see come in, and we could start building some upper distribution, upper value in this composite, and who knows, we could lead the way higher here, depending on how this works, how this continues to develop. But the market is currently in two-way trade and seeing balance back into the market here. So again, what we see pretty much today was just a test below this in this point of control in this ledge area, and we see obviously responsive buyers into the crude oil inventories. We see this compression bar come in, see this nice move up, we see a compression bar come in, and then the short was obviously from the F period, which was basically the value area high reference, and we had confluence with the weekly value area high here. So some key support resistance dealing off here, and some context, and once we see the no offer above the developing value area high, after sort of testing this previous high at the 104.79s, we just see a mean reversion back to the weekly Vwap, and also which is the halfway back on the initial balance for the week. Obviously, if we see a breakup market, we're going to see an expansion to the buy side or the sell side, depending on whether we try to become imbalanced on this market. But at the minute, this market is showing just balanced two-way trade at this high, and the next directional move is yet to be seen here. So what we can do now is we can start to build this composite, and we can obviously merge these together, and you can see we are starting to build some slightly higher value. The point of control is shifted a little bit higher to the 104.40s area. So this is kind of line in the sand and a real distribution, real sort of area to focus on. Obviously, if we start opening higher, we can start leaning on this to the buy side, and if we start opening lower, we can start leaning off this to the sell side. But until then, we're just playing obviously the extremes of the high and low until we break out this, and either come down and test this previous 102.40s point of control, or we continue to break out and see a run up to this sort of $110 a barrel area, which is yet to be seen. If we look at the daily time frame, we are still one time frame and higher. The 5 exponential moving average, the fast time frame moving average, is still playing catch up, and we are, like I said, we are still one time framing. There is a gap here. The gap below fill would be the 103 sort of 10s, and the lowest bar into the 103.47s. So obviously, if the market fails to break out here higher, we are going to probably most likely come back up and clean this gap area. Today we did sort of remain above the bracket that we were trading in, and but we do keep closing into the bracket higher. So again, depending on what happens here, if we break to one time frame in and we trade through the 5/8 exponential moving average, like I said, we can see a destination trade back to the 102.35, which will then clean up this gap. But if not, we could still one time frame higher, depending on what we see happen here. And we have sort of caught up with the value area high on the quarterly, and obviously this is going to act as confidence now. We've got this clear upper distribution that we have to keep an eye on. So again, we could still see value push price through this high, and we could see a new year high on the back adjusted contract. Delta's looking pretty flat here. I mean, we're just basically back to zero for Delta for this quarter. This month, and there's just no real clear direction. We couldn't see the strong sellers come in on this bar, but like I said, overall pretty much rotational regards the aggressiveness of this market. Something else to sort of keep an eye on as well, if we look at the yearly delta, which I don't normally go through in these videos, we are seeing a divergence here. So you can see the market's putting in higher highs, but delta's actually currently skewed to the downside, and we can see a divergence on delta. So this could be a clue for that we're just not seeing the aggressive buyers an offer into this market high, which will suggest that we will come back down and test these lower values and probably clean up these possibly clean up these lower swings in the market. Like I said, this is yet to remain yet to be seen, but just have to keep an eye on this context. If we look at the 240-minute chart, we can clearly see that we've got this upper balance, and we're starting to bracket with two-way trade back in the market, and the imbalance to the buy side is over that we have seen. So until we see the next directional move, which will be a break above the 105.4s or a break below the 104 even, then we will probably continue to see two-way trade balance in this market. That's pretty much it for crude oil. I mean, like I said, I was just waiting to be a seller up here today, and I basically just took a destination trade from the value high to the value low, as we still see the rotation overnight and we see a failed imbalance breakout here. And like I said, also the confidence I was leaning off was the weekly value area high, when we just see a reversion to the mean on the weekly. There was some good order flow coming in up here as well, which I'll just quickly go through. I mean, like I said, we see this nice move off of the crude oil inventories. We see the resting orders sitting in the market here. We can see the big prints coming into the value area higher. We did leave a couple incomplete auctions, which was a bit of a concern on the footprint, but we see this nice bar afterwards, like the compression bar, and then the next bar we just couldn't trade above the value area high. So the next thing we did, we just sold off to the value area low here. You can see most of the targets getting filled in the market here. Just going to quickly touch base on gold. Some more interesting developments on gold here, and what I was doing on this market was just basically fading this upper balance on. I'll just bring over the 240-minute time chart, and you can see that we since we broke out, we've clearly seen a bottom come in at the 1240s, and what we basically saw was a two-way trade come back into the market. And what we are starting to see now is a two-way trade and a potential bracket balancing area come into play between this high, which is the 1270s almost, and the low at 1240s. So obviously, if we can't trade above 1270s, then what we're looking for is the destination trade to the bracket low and a potential breakout to the downside. If not, we could just see two-way trade balance before we see a mean reversion back to the 1290s, or we see a breakout to the downside. But obviously, these are some clear references to keep an eye on at the moment, and we have found some sellers on today. If we quickly look at the yearly Vwap, you can see that today we did come back up and test that previous value area low from last year. I mean, what I was looking for was possibly the market to reject this year's development value and a rotation back down, but what we saw was like a short covering profile yesterday, and we have tested the previous year's lows here. Again, delta is showing that we are in balance to the sell side, and is negative at the moment, so we'll see if we continue to push down here or not. I'm just going to quickly run through the profiles that I've been seeing, and for this I'm going to use RTH to explain the last couple of days, or last 2 weeks pretty much. So since we sold off, we see this one time framing down, and we see this nice big sell off and it's punched down into the 1240s, and then since then we basically just saw some selling come back in, and then as they tried to push the market down, and On this day here, we see the sellers come back in, we see responsive buyers below that previous low into the 1240s, which is showing heavy support, and they will continue to try sell the market, and the market just couldn't go anywhere. We see this heavy support coming in. This is two-way trade came in, we took out that previous high. So first of all, we were one time framing down, we took out the one time frame in this on this bar. The next day the market came in and we just saw a massive short covering profile. So we just see responsive buyers straight off the open covering their shorts. Obviously people that are getting short then have to cover by buying, so we see buying, short covering. And the next day we do see some sellers active and trying to sell this back down. For 2 days we see this, and we can just see that just couldn't get anywhere. So again the next day, which was on Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember now, it was on, sorry, this is Tuesday, we see another short covering as the market was just getting too short and we couldn't break down further, and so we see another short covering day. Now finally we're coming back up to this support area and into the 1260s, 1265s, and today we just basically opened just above that previous high. We just tested above it, found some sellers, and from then we just one time frame down the whole day, and we see a spike down to that previous ledge. If we do look at the Globex profiles, I mean, what I did yesterday is we had this double distribution trend day on the Globex profile, and I simply just split out this short covering profile into the pit session. And you can see today that we basically opened up, we came up, tested above this, and we just basically see two-way trade in the market from a Globex perspective, and just a balanced profile. So from here, obviously a break up above or below will most likely lead the direction for this market, but we are starting to come back into balance on the weekly, and we started to see that we were trying to be in balance at the buy side, but today we just tested above the week's initial balance and we just see a reversion back to the mean now. So these are going to be important levels pushing into tomorrow, the 1262 halves, and obviously the initial balance and this current high into the 1265 halves. Just seeing if there's anything else to mention here. I mean, the composite, we're still just trading in this lower distribution here, filling in some volume. So this was today's trade, so I'm going to merge this together now, and you can see we just filled in a little bit here. So obviously this 1270s is the high of this distribution, and we do look like we're going to try come maybe possibly fill in some more volume down here. So depending if we see the mean reversion back to 1290s, or we see this market continue to balance in the bracket that I was suggesting here. If we do see continued balance, then like I said, we will come down and we'll start to fill in some of this volume in this low volume node here. So interesting development on this market, and it will be interesting to see how we push forward. Just one more thing on the quarterly, which was quite of a heads up that we were possibly going to see a bottom into the 1240s. Is as soon as we sort of made this breakout low, I mean, Delta was just we just see major divergence on Delta. So even though the market was rotating high, it was rotating down on non-aggressive selling, and what the market pretty much did is we just found support. We see a divergence, and we've just seen a reversion back to the previous value, the developing value. And you can see there was a bit of a battle with this 1250s. I mean, there was some selling as we broke out of this area, but the market just couldn't hold it, and there was a bit of a fight. But offer obviously won here, as we saw some short covering from the shorts, and we've seen a punch back to the developing value. So we're still looking out of balance on the quarterly, and value is getting pulled down to price here. So maybe when value finally catches up, we'll get a reaction, and we'll see this rotation back to 1240s, and we'll see where the market goes from there. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that for today. If you have any questions, then please ask on the forum or email me, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Take care and goodbye.